Good morning. Today we're going to talk about dividing fractions. You need to be on either 27 or 28 of your interactive notebook. Please take a moment to write the topic and essential question. You can pause the notes if you need to be able to do this. Then following notes are from pages 64 through 66 in Big Ideas Math. So the first thing we need to understand when we are doing dividing fractions is we need to understand what the reciprocal is. So the definition I would like you to write down is two numbers whose product is 1 are reciprocals. And I'm going to circle that word because that's a really important word in dividing fractions. And so that means if I take one number and I multiply it by another number, if you get 1, you get a reciprocal. That's a reciprocal. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I were to show you algebraically, if A over B times B over A equals 1, that's a reciprocal. Or another example would be if I were to take like 1/2 and multiply it by 2 over 1, 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And remember that anytime you have a fraction that has a numerator and denominator that are the same, it equals 1. So those are reciprocals. Another important thing to know is to write the reciprocal of a fraction you must invert, which invert is a fancy math word for turning over the fraction. So it looks like this. If I were to have 3/5, I take this numerator, the 3, I put it as the new denominator. I take the 5, I put it as the new numerator, and that's an inverted or reversed fraction. It's a reciprocal. We can check it by taking 3/5 and multiplying it by 5/3. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 5 is 15. Remember, 15 over 15 is 1, and it is true. Now, using this information to divide a number by a fraction, I'm going to underline that because this is answering our essential question. We are going to multiply the number by the reciprocal or flipped fraction. So an example would be if I were to take 1/5 and divide it by 3/4, I would take this first fraction, I would keep it the same, and I would do 1/5. I would change my operation from division to multiplication, and I would flip this last fraction to 4 over 3 because it's the reciprocal. I would then multiply straight across. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 3 is 15, and I would simplify if I could, and in this case I could not. And that would be it. Like I said, if you need to pause the video to go back so you can write all this down, that'd be great, because at this point we're going to do some practice. So I'm going to divide my notes, and I'm going to find 1/6 divided by 2/3. So my steps are, like I said, keep the first fraction the same. 2, change the operation from division to multiplication, and 3, flip, this is change, flip the second fraction to the reciprocal. Okay, so let's try it out. Keep the first fraction. That's keep. Change my operation and flip my 2/3 to 3/2. Now I can simplify in this actual fraction ahead of time if I wanted to, because 6 and 3 have a common factor, so I can pull 3 out of both and make this 2 and 1, and now I multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, so my answer is 1/4. Because you always want to simplify anytime you have a fraction. Okay, so I ran out of room, so I'm actually going to go over to page 26. Like I said, pause anytime you need to so that you can write down whatever you need. But this time, I'm going to do a modeling one. I'm going to model. And the question I have is a piece of wood is 3 feet long. How many 3/4 foot pieces can you cut from it? Now it's a word problem, so I'm going to circle my words, or circle my numbers, underline the words that go with it, box my question. This problem only has one question I'm going to answer, and that is 3-foot piece divided by, or divided into 3/4 pieces. So to do this, I could do standard algorithm and I could do the model. I'm going to start off with the model. So I've got 3 pieces of wood, so I'm going to draw my wood. There's 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm going to divide that into fourths because you'll notice that my fraction I'm divided by is got a denominator of 4. So I'm going to divide that into fourths. And I like to divide when I'm dividing into fourths in half and then in half again. So now what I've got to do is take my 3/4, or my 3 feet, and I'm going to divide into these 3/4 pieces. I'm going to count off how many 3/4 pieces I've got. So here's 1, 2, 3, that's 3/4. So this makes 1, 2, this is another one. This is 3. And I'm not done because if you'll notice I've got more pieces over here. So this would make 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So over here I got 4. So I have 4 pieces. That's the model. So now let's try it out with the standard algorithm. I'm going to take 3 feet, and the first thing I want to do is I want to change that into a fraction. So 3 becomes a fraction when I put a 1 under it. Anytime you take a whole and you put a 1 under it, you got a fraction. So I'm keeping it, and then I've got 3/4. So I'm going to rewrite this now. I'm going to keep the first fraction, change my division to multiplication, take my second fraction, and I'm going to flip it to the reciprocal. Now I'm going to multiply across. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I want to simplify. We always simplify if you can. So in this case, how many times does 3 go into 12? Well, it goes into 12 4 times. I got the same answer. And those are 2 ways in which you can divide fractions, either using the model or the standard algorithm. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions on this, you can go back, rewatch the notes, you can look in your textbook for more guided directions, you can email me, you can see me, but make sure you understand how to do this because it's a really important part of 6th grade math. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye!